Hello, everyone. Welcome back to episode 2 of Biters, the weekly podcast devoted to AMC's Walking Dead, brought to you by Southgate Media Group. I am one of your co-hosts, Jeff Marsick, a screenwriter and a comic book writer of the comic book Z-Girl and the Four Tigers. And with me is my artist and good friend and co-collaborator, Kirk Manley.
How you doing, Jeff?
All right. So...
Ding. Round 2. Ding.
Yeah, what a round it was as well. Before we start talking about this week's episode entitled Infected, Kirk and I wanted to first mention some things that we had seen around the world, around the internet concerning The Walking Dead. Kirk had something, we brought up a question last week about Walking Dead sales, and Kirk had found some more information about that.
Yeah, posted it on the Facebook, but for those that didn't catch it, just as a follow-up to that discussion, Walking Dead 115, which is the current issue out, debuted 352,000, and that had multiple covers, I think.
Yes,
and that's just astounding numbers. It's the 10th anniversary issue. It kicks off the storyline All Out War, which of course has been building for a while, and is in and of itself pretty amazing challenge. They're going to do, I think, 12 issues is the war.
Yes,
and they're going to put them out every 2 weeks during the period, of course, that Walking Dead is on. So that's an amazing accomplishment if they succeed on that. It immediately sold out. And that makes that issue the top comic of the year to date in specialty shops, beating the estimated 308,000 copies sold in February by Justice League of America #1.
So Walking Dead outsells Justice League of America.
Yeah, #1. So that's pretty amazing.
That is.
The landmark, unbeknownst to me as well in this article, the landmark 100th issue of the series, which was last in 2012, I guess, was the top-selling comic in the direct market for 2012, setting a new record for highest orders for a comic in a single month with an estimated 366,000 copies. So Walking Dead is not only the comic is gaining speed and is obviously affected by the show, but it has surpassed all other comics in specialty stops, especially direct orders, I guess.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know for myself when I go to the shop and I pick up my huge stack of comics, Walking Dead is the first thing I read every week or every month.
Oh yeah, absolutely, me too.
It's so the characters in there, and it's just such compelling storytelling that it's the first thing you go to. What was it last week? I think it was the Tyrese special came out, and it was a one shot that it was a reprint of Walking Dead, a portion of Walking Dead issue 7, as well as the Free Comic Book Day Tyrese special, and it just reintroduced us to Tyrese, and when we first saw him. So for those who are enjoying Tyrese on the show, if you want to get his backstory, that would be a good issue to pick up.
Yeah, it's funny that I forgot. I haven't gone back and refreshed myself with those issues. It's funny because Tyrese is he was such a great character, and so I think everyone drawn to him pretty quickly because he was kind of the everyman kind of guy.
Right.
I mean, he just he was this guy. He got his daughter with him, and his daughter's with a guy he doesn't like. And then he can't shoot the broadside of a barn. He can't. So all he can do is use this hammer. So that becomes his big. What I mean? It's like, and most everybody thinks, oh, if I the zombie apocalypse, I'm going to be able to shoot. But the reality is, shooting is not always as easy for everybody as it looks on TV. So it was great. Also, the thing that stuck out with me in that issue, I think it's issue 7 of the series, is the part that was reprinted. There was a segment where he and Rick clearly just hit it right off. And they get thrown into this situation and they back each other up, and they just really, Kirkman really effectively establishes their tight bond. And for those of us watching the show that really like Tyrese in the comic, it's been kind of frustrating, but they've kind of he's not like the character in the comic that much, but I think that might be changing.
Yeah, it's especially, and we'll get to it in a minute, especially the events that happen in this latest episode, Infected. It will probably send Tyrese down that path that those of us who are big fans of the characters that we want him to go down. One thing that captured my eye this past week was Rolling Stone has a cover story, The Rise of the Walking Dead Going Zombie. This is the October 24th issue, and for everybody listening, anything we talk about on this show, we'll try to put links up on the Facebook page as well so that you can download them and read at your own leisure. But there were a lot of interesting things about in this article when they were talking about the show, and a couple that stood out. One especially was they were talking about Norman Reedus, who, as everybody knows, is Daryl. And they were talking about the fanaticism that goes on surrounding this show. And when the reporter goes into his trailer, it says fan drawings of him paper Reedus's trailer walls, and on the desk is a gelatinous breast implant one woman sent. Reedus uses it as a phone cradle. And then there's a story that comes after that. It says, the show engenders serious fanaticism, the most intense of which focuses on Reedus. He thinks people identify with Daryl as an underdog who needed the apocalypse to become his best self. Reedus plays Daryl with a brooding smokiness that seems to attract the unhinged. The week before, a 32-year-old Mississippi woman dragged her 3 kids on a road trip to find Reedus. She made it to Georgia, where she ran out of gas, was placed in a shelter with her family, ditched the kids, broke into a nearby house, and was eventually arrested. Reedus says, I've been followed home over half a dozen times. I've had somebody break into my backyard. A guy from the FBI is coming here to talk about security.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Wow. That's too bad that happens, But, it's to be expected to some degree. I mean, it's a huge, huge phenomenon. 16 million people are watching it, There's got to be some loonies in there,
Oh, yeah. Another part of the article talks about, with Scott Gimple, a longtime fan of the Walking Dead comic and a former editor for Matt Groening's Bongo Comics, the show seems to be realigning itself more closely with Kirkman's vision after some complained it had jagged too far away from it last season. Gimple admits that when he got the nod, quote, it was a little scary, but describes his role now as, quote, viewer-in-chief. As he's steered season 4, he's had occasional differences of opinion with Kirkman, but not the ones many might assume. This is what Scott Gimple says. Quote, he's been more about diverging from the comics, and I've been more about being faithful to them, Gimple says. And then in the end, storylines from the comic are being applied in new context to different characters or altered enough to keep hardcore fans guessing. It's a bit of a remix, he says. Thought that was interesting.
Already a couple episodes into season 2, it's hard to say because there's a lot more to come. But I already feel like under Gimple's direction, we're getting closer and more in sync with the comic than we had in previous seasons.
Yeah. You got anything else?
Yeah, well, since you brought up the Rolling Stone article, there was a little article I saw this morning actually it was linked to from IO9. It was a TV Guide article. It was an interview with Reedus, and he was asked about the relationship with Carol in the show, and would that get closer, et cetera, and a romance. And he said a romance that, and this is it's this quote. It has to be in a romance that he hasn't rushed to accelerate, blah, 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 blah. So it has to be real, awkward, and stretched out. It's one of those rare relationships, meaning Daryl and Carol, on a show where all the little things are more important than just one big act of sex, Rita says. If you know a restaurant that has really good pie and you eat it every day, you don't want the pie. You just want a little taste, and it makes it a special thing. And I just thought,
only Daryl to pie.
Yeah, only Daryl could equate the relationship with Carol as eating pie. That cracked me up.
And their relationship on the show, it is great. It does move kind of glacially, but it's very genuine. It's a very like a real relationship, and there's a playfulness. Unlike that Maggie Glenn relationship that's just driving me bananas. It adds absolutely nothing to the story.
It did for a while, and it did at different points in the story in the past. But I agree, it's been a little stagnant. Although I thought this episode, there, the small segment where they're in the tower, waking up, it was. I thought it was well done. And again, not a lot of dialogue. Just showing the fact that they are having this moment. And it was kind of the eye of the storm, or the calm before the storm. This romantic moment.
Yeah.
That's it for news right now.
All right.
Oh no, we had the guy in Tennessee, Antioch, Tennessee, Michael Spann. He bleeds from his eyes, and doctors are stumped. So Jeff and I are convinced the zombie apocalypse has started. The new pig zombie flu is on its way.
We called it. I think we
called it here first.
We either posted on the Biters podcast or the Biters Facebook site, or we did it on the Z-Girl and the Four Tigers Facebook. But yeah, we definitely saw that and posted it saying that we know what it is.
All right, so let's get into the episode.
All right. So as people know who listened last week, our format is we loosely structured around good, bad, and ugly. We start off talking about what we each thought was good about it, what was bad, what was ugly. And ugly can either be just really bad, or it could just be gory ugly, so therefore it could be a good thing. And then we'll deviate and wander because, we have attention deficit disorder, so we'll be all over the place. Along the way. So first of all, we'll start off with Kirk. What did you like about it?
Well, I just it was much more action packed. I thought it was an excellent episode overall. Tremendous character development and plot movement. Lots of telling with the story by showing and not with much dialogue, which I always find so much more satisfying. It moved fast. It covered a ton of stuff. I thought, especially the growing threats to the community, to the prison, internal from the rat feeder, the virus, the health threat, the growing zombies on the fence, the governor still out there. It's just kind of the amount of dread and threats and stuff are just really building, and they're doing a great job of I think of building that effectively. And the character development this week, again, as I mentioned, great small quick scenes that were really well done. Tyrese and Karen at the beginning. Glenn and Maggie up in the tower with their little wake up moment. Michonne and Beth, that sequence was just, I'm sure we'll get to talk about it a little bit more later on. Thought that was fantastic. Carl and Rick and Carl, Carl and the twins. There was just lots of these small character developing scenes. And there was a particularly good one, I thought, with Daryl and Rick, where Daryl is basically pleading with Rick to put the gun back on and to come out of his self-imposed farmer retirement and start helping him, carry the load and
be the leader that they all expect him to be, or that they look up to him to be.
Well, really, Daryl's kind of become that leader, and I think, and he's saying to Rick, you've more than earned your right to. He says to him, "You've more than earned your right to kind of take a break and relax and stuff." But here they have him talking to Rick, and he's standing in a grave that he's digging. It was just a wonderful visual metaphor for what he was, the burden that he's carrying, and he wants help doing it.
Right.
I thought that was really well done.
Well, the leadership. Daryl's has, like you said, he's kind of the de facto leader now when Rick is off the reservation, but it's not something that he's comfortable with. We talked about it last week about how when he walks through and everybody shouts his name and he's regarded as, like a conquering hero, and he's clearly not comfortable with that. He does what needs to be done, and he can lead, and he's a good second in command, but he doesn't want that spotlight. I don't get that he wants that spotlight, and that Rick's a little bit better at it. What'd you think of that opening when whoever it was, Mystery X, is feeding the rat through the chain link to the zombies?
Right.
What'd you think of that?
Immediately I was like, this is the governor's people back trying to do this. But then as the episode went on, it kind of came, I came to the realization that's on the inside.
Right.
Someone's feeding the rats through the fence to get them to come to the fence and stay at the fence. They're putting the rats on the inside. So that's an internal, potential internal threat. So then it's either a plant from somebody in the governor, or it's somebody internally that's lost it or is it working against them. And they tried, I think they kind of tried to imply that it could be the sister Lizzie or Liza of
Lizzie.
Mika and Liza.
Yep.
But everyone seems to be thinking, that's their choice, which leads me to think that that's just, a red herring.
Right. But have we seen, we've not seen in, 3 seasons before this, have we seen zombies eat animals?
Yeah, they've definitely, like they were implied in the very beginning of this season with the pig carcass, and the out in the woods, that the crazy lady, when we thought she was a zombie, and I think in the past we've seen where they've attacked horses. Yeah, on the farm, didn't they attacked horses? And,
I don't remember.
Yeah.
It might be.
Pretty sure.
So for me, seeing that, I thought it was that you could. I seem to remember from the comic that it was almost like an avenue of last resort, because I think they showed a zombie eating a deer, maybe, or I'm just completely making this up, which is possible. But I seem to think it was that the animals were kind of like a last resort. So when you're
I think the animals are really hard to get, probably, for them. You know what I mean? I mean, people should be too, but people are a lot dumber than animals in regards to escape. Well, in terms of escaping prey,
True.
But so I think it's it's hard for them to get to animals. It would be my guess.
I thought it was cool though, that someone feeding an animal in a zoo, kind of pushing it through the fence, and I thought it added a new wrinkle to the.
So who do you think's dropping the rats on the inside of the fence?
Okay, this is I have no idea. This is a really difficult thing to try to figure out. Assuming it's somebody that we know, and it's probably got to be the person at the end who took Karen out of her cell and then with another body torched them. I'm assuming it's the same person. My money's on Sasha, Tyrese's sister, and how I got there. Completely made it up. It was something in it was something in in the teaser of the upcoming episode. There was something in there that just kind of made me think of it. So that's my guess. You?
Wow. Yeah, I'm not following that Sasha. As far as I can tell, she's one of the good guys. I could see her torching the bodies, maybe, if she thought that was, she does strike me as a person who is kind of matter of fact. We have to, it's black or white. Doesn't seem like there's gray with her. And if she thought that was the right thing to do, but I don't see any point to drop it to creating a problem with the zombies on the fence. And I think this, my immediate reaction was that these must be the same people. I think there's always the possibility that the governor has some sort of a plan. I think they've kind of leaned or made us look at Bob as a potential, the new character Bob, right, as a potential problem, with the whole situation last week with him and starting the raining zombie thing in the store with his drinking problem. But I could see also a scenario where the two, those two things are separate. That the person doing the rats is not the same person who torched the bodies. It could become more complicated than that. But my thinking was that it's probably Bob, and that he could be a plant of the governor's. Somehow the governor's got to come back into this,
Right.
And he knows, and he's going to be smart. He's a smart guy. He's not going to just rush them. You know what I mean? And I would think that having somebody inside would be the way he would want to go.
Yeah.
Plus, that ties into a storyline from the comic, which was he had Martinez that helped Rick and his crew escape the governor's town undercover. He goes back and becomes part of the crew, but then tries to escape in order to sell them out, and then Rick chases them down. But they may be trying to bring in some of that storyline.
Yeah, that's a good point. That the mystery person in the beginning feeding, and it might not necessarily be a hostile intent in the beginning with the rat. It might just be what happens if I do this. It might just be kind of like an experiment, just to see what happens. Would they eat this? But you're right. They could be two completely different. It could be two different events. What happens in the beginning and then the torching in the end.
Well, I think if the rats thing is Liza or Lisa or Lizzie, which is interesting because, just as a side note, because I made a note here that the father that dies, their father that dies, they're not twins, but they're two closely aged sisters, obviously. Right. The father looked very much like the character in the book. I think his name is Alan.
Yeah, I think his name was Ryan in the show.
Ryan in the show, and in the book, there was an Alan and Donna, and they had twins.
Oh, and, right.
And he dies, and Donna ends up having a relationship with Tyrese, but the twins later go on to be, one of them turns out to be defective right. and takes out the other one, right? Kills the other one, I think.
Yep.
And then Carl goes and kills that kid because he's like, that kid's broken, so I'm not going to let him run around this camp, like potentially taking out somebody else. And it was interesting how they kind of positioned the two daughters of this guy that looked like him. I think they're kind of trying to bring that storyline into it, through these other characters. And because then, which is my best line of the whole show for that episode, was when the sister Mika says to Carol, "She's messed up. She's not weak."
Yeah. Well, that was a tough scene where Carol brings both the daughters in, and it was like, all right, well, you got to do it. And I get the tough love about it, and look what Carol's been through, and trying to, and that's just one of the subtle horrors of the show is the things that people have to do to their loved ones. It's not just, the shuffling dead, the zombies, the whole thing. Yeah, that's horrible, and what they do to you, that's terrible. But you're forced to put your own. Look what Carl's mother and just all these people. That was a tough scene. That was a.
No, I agree, and I thought that it was done really well, and in fact, I got a little nervous when she did say, "Do you want to be the one? Do you want to do it?" And the girl, Lizzie says, yes, and then she's going to do it. And I was like, I didn't buy that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That just seems too hard. But then when she goes over to do it, she can't.
Right.
And then I was like, yes, that's very real. You know what I mean? She fell apart. She couldn't do it. You know?
Right.
And so I thought they handled that well. But yeah, I agree with you. It's tough. There's no time for mourning. You know what I mean? There's just, you don't have time for any mourning in this world.
Yeah. So my good, I kind of piggybacks on what you said, and I had said to you this before, that I think the producers on the show were listening to our podcast from last week, because we jumped right into the action in this episode. So, if you are listening, please, post on Facebook and let us know. We'd appreciate it. But we got right into the action. We didn't have to suffer through 20, because we all knew it was coming. We didn't have to wait 20 minutes or a half hour to get there. We got right there. Patrick, his face bleeding, follows Karen out, and she goes into one cell, and just as he's about to, go all Sizzler on her, he here's somebody coughing from down the hall, down the block, and he goes in and just tears the guy apart and rips that guy apart.
We should have known at that point that Karen's days or hours were numbered, because it's like, as soon as they led us to believe that this was it for her, and then he goes by, she missed. She's going to be okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Should have known better.
So that kicked off the whole domino effect. One eats one, that turns into two, and just next thing you know, cell block D is just awash in zombies.
Right.
it was funny because trying to keep track of throughout that scene when the regular crew comes in and fights off the zombies, they're calling out people's names like, oh, that was Dave, or oh, that one's Bill, and there's all these names. I'm trying to keep track of them. Just realize that they're just a bunch of red shirts, from Star Trek that they're putting names on. And when there was one part of that scene when they're doing the mop up, going around and taking out all the zombies. When Rick and Daryl are on the upper row, and you see Carol with Ryan, and he's about to turn, right? And she knows it's coming. Right. And then they would cut to Rick and Daryl, and then they would cut back to Carol, and then they would cut back. And there's that one part where Rick's ahead of Daryl. He looks into the one cell, and he just looks back at Daryl, and Daryl's just kind of like, what? Just go in, do your thing. And Rick goes in quiet, comes out, and kind of gives Daryl a look. And at that point, I thought maybe Carol had bit it, that she had, and that was, kind of a subtle stay away, I just did something you don't want to see.
Yeah, no. I see what you're saying, yeah.
But clearly that didn't happen. But
well, I I was nervous about how they were going to pull off that whole thing with Cell Block D without, because I have read a little bit online. Some people are complaining that, why in the world don't they have guards set up at each cell block? They should have around the clock guard shifts.
Right.
People shouldn't just, it's probably true, but at the same time, you're locked inside of a prison cell. They probably figure they're pretty damn safe. But,
absolutely.
So I was like, well, how are they going to, get a single zombie to create a whole bunch of zombies without getting found or figured out? And it was because of the combination of the zombie of Patrick, but also the flu.
Yeah.
Because they had the guy that was in that block who had locked himself in his cell because he sleepwalked, and he was turned.
Right.
And he had turned because he died of the flu. So the flu was in that cell block, and people were dying during the night in addition to Patrick, which is why you had such a huge outbreak.
Yeah.
So I thought that was well done.
I think that however many months they've been here, the entire population has been in the prison. There's a complacency there. They've gone through the entire prison. They've wiped it all out. It's sanitized. It's clean.
Right. Exactly.
So standing guard inside, you wouldn't. I wouldn't think that you'd do that. You'd watch your perimeter.
Yeah. Don't you think it was great though to see Daryl and Rick and Glenn? They came in that room, and it was like the Avengers had hit, you know what I mean? It was like old school, they were back on the road, and boom, man, Rick grabbed that rifle out of that guy's hand, and they went into go mode, man. They were just taking them out left and right.
Yeah, they haven't gotten slow in their,
No, they haven't.
Farming's been good to Rick. One of the other things that we saw was, so we saw the herd pushing against the fence, and the fence is starting to cave, and you just know that that's not going to last much longer.
Right.
The makeshift telephone poles in place keep the fence up. That's going to be a weakness. But Michonne gets hurt. She twists her ankle, does something to her ankle, and she limps in and gets it bandaged. And what happens? We learn something, or we get a little bit of flavor about Michonne's past.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, that I think that sequence with her and Beth and that and one of the two of the Rick scenes were just the most powerful scenes of the whole show. I mean, she's clearly either lost or had a baby or a child, and it's great because there's so much mystery around Michonne, and why is she so hard-assed, and why is she, this kind of like totally emotionless, and you're starting to see that crack and starting to see a little bit on the inside of that shell. And I just thought they were fantastic scenes. I think the girl that plays Beth also is fantastic, and
she's gotten better.
I just think she just keeps doing better and better. And when that first exchange, when she comes in or she's there with the baby, and the baby starts to cry, and the way that the actress that plays Michonne just I can't remember, Denai Denai Guerrera.
Yep.
She looks like she's experiencing physical pain from that cry. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was like at that I realized at that moment that there was something going on. But then, of course, it's solidified when she hands off the baby to her and she's like, no. She screams, no. You know what I mean? Do not give me that baby. And then she's holding it like it was this poisonous sack of flour. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then slowly but surely, you know, she starts to melt and takes that baby in, and you just see, and the lips, her quivering lips. It was just, she just did a tremendous job, I think.
Yeah.
She really sold that.
And I think little reminders or things like that are enough. I don't want to know the full backstory. I don't want it explained. I don't want her to sit there and.
Well, we certainly didn't need it there. You know what I mean? You may find out more down the road, but in that sequence, absolutely not.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And it was funny too, because not funny, but again, you know, I just think the writing is just getting so much better, because at the same sequence that's happening, you get the line from Beth when they're talking about, you know, the fact that they risked their lives to save Michonne, Carl, and I forgot who else ran out. Was it Glenn? I'm not sure. Or Maggie, I think. She's like, well, they could have gotten hurt. They could have gotten killed. And she said, look, when you care about people, hurt's part.
Right.
And, you know, that that was intentional, that you're getting that line and that comparison in the same scene that you're getting this experience with the baby, and the fact that obviously this was a hurt that just hurt too much,
right?
You know, for her.
So we've had there's a lot about the show that we like. What didn't you like the show? What's your bad?
Well, the thing that's bothering me so far, again, only 2 episodes in, but they're just killing off so many potentially good characters,
right?
And that bothers me, because, you know, when they were introduced, these, like the prison, when they first took the prison and they brought the convicts in, there was one of the guys that, you know, it was hard to see him go, because I thought he was potentially going to be good. I don't remember. He was the one that died at Woodbury, and because it was only 2 episodes in or whatever. But these people, they've done more in 2 episodes to introduce these people and make you feel already attached to them, like we talked about last week with Zach. Mm-hmm. You know, that was a hard loss. I really liked him immediately. Same thing with Karen. I mean, I thought she was a great addition to the general cast, and boom, now she's gone. So I just think that I'd like to, you know, I feel like they're taking too many good new potential characters and wiping them out too fast. Mm-hmm. You know, let us get a little more attached to them. You know, you got these 40 other red shirts, to use your expression. You know, like, you know what I mean? Let those go. And, you know, I mean, you know, or 1 or 2 of these, but not all of them. Like, I liked that doctor, the new doctor that they just introduced.
Oh, yeah.
Again, they didn't make a big deal. They didn't say this is so-and-so. They just assumed you would know who it is or figure out who it is. And because I like that.
Because he used big doctor words, and therefore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I looked him up on Wikipedia, though, or I looked up the cast on Wikipedia, and Subramanian is Dr. Subramanian is his character. But he's listed as only going to be in 2 episodes.
Oh, geez.
So
red shirt.
No, I don't know. You know, Wikipedia isn't always right. But
if you know, we have each of these podcasts. We have our kill of the week, the zombie of the week, the character of the week. We need to have like a red shirt of the week. I think if this pace keeps up.
Pace, I know. So yeah, I'd say that's my biggest criticism right now, is that, you know, they're doing such an effective job of quickly introducing these new people and the new relationships that they're having with the main cast, and then they're just wiping them out so fast.
Yeah. I'm actually my bad is also kind of piggybacks on that, is that, again, for the second week in a row, they've telegraphed who the person is that's gonna die. When Tyrese sings, "I got you under my skin," and then, you know, all she had to do was cough, and you just knew, okay, you're done. So we know, you know, the producers of The Walking Dead, we know you listen to our podcast, so just stop doing it. It's upsetting us. Yeah, and one other thing that I didn't like, I just thought it was a little heavy-handed. Look, I get that Rick is he's trying to find some sense of normalcy. He's trying to get away from the violence and all this killing, and try to his gardening, his farming is kind of like an anchor for him. I get that, but I don't know. In all honesty, it's a minor point, but I just thought it was a cheesy line when Michonne goes, "Oh, you don't wear your hat anymore," and Carl says, "Oh, you don't wear it's not a farming hat. What? You can't wear that hat when you're farming? There's a specific hat for farming? I mean, come on."
Yeah, I didn't like that line either, and I was going to comment about it, but then there was just the rest of the episode. Just it wasn't an indicator of things to come. It was just a one bad line, so I just let it slide,
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I think that to me, that was an example of the old school Walking Dead show that they had to explain somehow something verbally. There was no need to do that.
Right.
The fact that he's not wearing his hat anymore speaks volumes.
Right.
He's trying to be like his dad. He's trying to give up the way of the gun, trying to farm the land with him. He's trying to learn by his example. We didn't need to hear that. I agree. And to me, that was a little bit of a leftover from the old way they used to do things.
I like later on, as you say, the way of the gun, how after when the herd is pushing against the fence and Rick realizes the only way to get them away is he goes in, grabs the pigs, and that was tough. So he slaughters the pigs, and basically it's reminding me of that line, "Every time I try to get away, they just pull me back in."
Yeah,
and everything that he had set up is just it's gone to crap. And at the end, when he torches the pigsty there, and then pulls out his thing, hands Carl his gun, and then he straps on too, and you just know, okay, it's. He's answering
the
the
fire
call
was really, his hopes and his dreams just going up in smoke, literally. You know what I mean? I thought that whole sequence, it had a little, it didn't bother me, but lots of times in movies and TV, they do a kind of a Jesus kind of syndrome or something. And there was a little bit of that, with the sacrifice. He's basically sacrificing, the pigs, which are innocents, but it's also, I think, sacrifice. It's symbolic of him sacrificing himself for the people. He's got to sacrifice himself and his dreams to take care of these people and to lead them and to save them, and it's a little bit of a Jesus thing going on, I think. But and then the bird, he takes the shirt off. He's covered in the blood of the pigs. And it was pretty dramatic. I thought it was really cool.
But even at the end, I liked that there wasn't, he just handed Carl the gun, and there wasn't a speech about, okay, now you've got a responsibility, blah, blah. It was just silent. It was here, Carl takes the gun, then he pulls his out, and straps it on, and I like that. I like that.
You know what else is great is that, when it's so easy to quickly blame actors, when you start seeing a bad show or a show start to go bad and you see a performance you don't like, and you're like, I think of the first Star Wars prequel, or with
I try not to.
I know, right?
But
don't think about those actors. I mean, it was Samuel Jackson and the guy that played Obi-Wan is so great.
Well, you had Liam Neeson as Qui-Gon.
Liam Neeson. I mean, these are like those are like top actors of in the field right now. You know what I mean? And at that time, and they were the most wooden, horrible performances of almost any movie I've seen. So this is another great example. I mean, I think that Andrew Lincoln, Denai, obviously, are spectacular, obviously, actors and actresses. They've just had bad scripts and bad direction. And it seems like that's changing because you're getting performances now. They're not laden with all this dialogue that they have to deliver. Instead, they're communicating these complex emotional situations through their visual performance.
Yeah. Yeah, this episode. Who did we say wrote last week's episode? Was that a Gimple?
I think Gimple wrote the opener. I don't know on this episode.
This was done by Angela Kang, who.
But Gimple is the showrunner, so all of it goes through him.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure he had input on dramatic input on all of it, even though it was by a different writer.
Yeah, and she's done some episodes before.
Yep.
All right, so now the ugly. I'm going to go first. I'm going to give you a break on this. I'm going to go first.
Sure,
Here's the ugly. Glenn and Maggie. They bore the life out of me. I get your whole thing about being up in the watchtower and that tender little moment. And you know what? I'll take Daryl and Carol any day of the week. Glenn and Maggie do nothing to move the story along. They do nothing. They're just taking up space. That's my ugly for this episode.
That is pretty ugly. Yeah, I think I thought it was better this week. I thought that the scene in the tower was more touching, it seemed more genuine. I liked that, again, it wasn't dialogue. It wasn't, oh this, oh that, oh I love you, oh I don't want anything to happen to you, blah, blah, blah. Instead it was communicated through, here he is looking at her sleeping. It's peaceful. It's something that, they probably all thought that they would never, have any more peace, quiet, time to reflect. And, he wants to take a picture of her. It's just, I don't know. I just thought that felt more genuine. Like her, I've lost an affection for him as a character. I agree with you, but I thought he was better in this episode. But I understand your opinion on that. My ugly was I'm going to go ugly in a good way this time, and that was just I think all the things we talked about were good, but then there was a super good, so I'm going to call that my ugly, and that for me was seeing the emotional walls of both the characters, Michonne and Rick, get torn down in this week, and in the pig sacrifice scene and in the baby with Michonne scene. Those are just two of the best character transformations or insights into the walls of characters that they've put up that I think the show has done. I just thought they were super, super well done.
Well, and how Andrew Lincoln is the pain that he's. And I'll go out there. I'll say it. You've heard me say it. For the first couple seasons, I didn't care for him. I didn't care for him as an actor. And I thought he got better in season 3. And this season, like you say, we're only 2 episodes in, but he's just able to emote facially and just with his body language. You just get that with him not saying anything.
I agree.
And Michonne, she's hands down my favorite character, and this little depth that we learn about her. You and I are both parents, and you and I both understand. Can almost walk in her shoes or appreciate the pain that she must have. When she was in the cell and Beth is with Judith, and Judith starts crying, and she, like you said, just the visceral reaction she seemed to have, the physical pain. Yeah, you hadn't seen something like that before out of Michonne. You hadn't seen such a, even when she was, everything that happened to her and with the governor.
Right, and, exactly. She was impervious.
So this is that. Yeah, this is something clearly this is her Achilles heel right here.
Right. Interesting. That's very interesting. That's an interesting.
What'd I say?
That you make that particular metaphor, Achilles heel, because she's in that room because she's hurt her foot. Kind of almost like saying, you know what I mean? She's injured herself. And it's that she has a deeper injury, and that's you know what I mean?
Wow!
Yeah,
look what I did.
I'm telling you, the writing is getting so good, man.
Yeah,
it's just getting so good. So I'm going to bring up my character of the week because since we were just talking about it. To me, it's Rick and Michonne. It was a tie.
You know that's 2 characters, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I know math isn't your strong suit, so I'm just.
We could call. Can we do it? Can we get Ricone?
Yeah, because Mick just doesn't work as well.
No.
Okay, so Kirk's going with Rishon as his
Rishon. I like Rishon
as his character. Mine is going to be the mystery guest. Whether they're one and the same in the beginning and the end. You know what? If they're not, mine is the mystery guest. Now I have to pull a Kirk, and if they're not the same, then I want them both. Wow, I'm torn. Anyway, I'm going to lump them together. It's whoever fed the zombies the rat in the beginning, and then whoever torched the bodies in the end, because they've added another dimension to this. They've added a mystery to the story now.
Right.
Now it's not just.
I'll be really disappointed if, like, the person who torched those bodies turns out to be some throwaway character that we haven't even met before.
Exactly.
Who's just, that I would be totally disappointed. And I don't think they'll do that, but that would be a total mistake if you ask me.
Yeah, it's got to be somebody. It's got to be somebody that we know. And the thing that was even worse about Karen's death was the fact that somebody killed her in her cell and then dragged her out and torched her. Right.
So you got a murderer.
Yeah.
There's a murderer as well as somebody who thinks they're, somehow doing something that's right for the health, well-being of the community. You know? But I don't know. That guy Bob, he gives me the heebie-jeebies. You know what I mean? So I'm banking on him for that.
He did run a corner in The Wire, so
What was he in The Wire?
He was D'Angelo Barksdale. He was I
didn't watch the
show. Asking me who this is like.
I know, it's the greatest TV there ever was. I know. I got to get there. I will. It's on my list. But what did he play in that?
He was part of the crew that ran the corners in Baltimore. I can't tell you more. You got to see it.
All right. Don't.
All right, my zombie of the week. I'm going with Patrick.
That's a good one.
He was the guy who kicked off this whole, the whole firestorm that set off all the events, and he's the guy I'm going with.
He did a good job too, because when he was shuffling and stuff, when he comes down through there and almost goes into her room and then stops and then moves on down, and then, oh my God, when he bites the throat out, like I thought that it was a little hard to, no pun intended, hard to swallow the idea that this person sleeping wouldn't react, at all.
Right.
But at the same time, a couple of things could be going on. One is obviously they had him bite the throat like that, specifically for people who were going to challenge that because they wanted to say, well, that's the voice box.
Right.
So he couldn't have made any sound. You know what I mean? His larynx goes, the voice box goes, all that goes, so he can't make any sounds. But he didn't even move. But then I got thinking about it. Maybe that guy was already dead or sick from the flu.
Could be. But now here's what's interesting is that if he's sick
at all.
Right, but so if he's
Someone
sick,
bites your throat out, you're going to move.
Well, maybe, but if he's sick and he's got the flu, so he's basically dying, zombies are eating the unclean.
Oh yeah, well that's right, and they're continuing to pass it around, and yeah. Well, he was probably still alive, but maybe he was just like
remember before the way to move among the zombies was to get their stench all over you, right? Or carry them with you, and they would ignore you as same. Now I don't know. This whole virus, this whole flu thing adds a whole new wrinkle to everything. But the actor's name who played Patrick is Vincent Martella, and a very, very convincing zombie.
He's the voice too of one of the on that famous cartoon Phineas and Ferb. He's one of the voices I read.
I'm IMDb right now. He is he's Phineas.
Yeah, my zombie of the week is interesting. The guy. It's funny because it's similar. Not Patrick, but the guy that Patrick munched because. When he comes alive as a zombie and rolls over, and his guts just come pouring out, man. That's just, I mean, again, they just keep up in the ante, man, in terms of what they do. They're going to run out. In fact, I would say they did it in this episode because some of the CGI at the fence with the heads was a little choppy or a little weak. You know what I mean? You could kind of tell it wasn't. You could tell it was CGI.
Some of the splatter, some of the
sticking, because what they do is they go in and they go halfway or whatever, and then the CGI finishes it.
Yeah,
and you can kind of tell that a lot of that was faked. But I give it to them. I mean, it's TV, and they've only got so much budget and time. I think they shoot, edit, CG, and do everything in like 8 days or something like that. I read, so that's crazy,
something insane.
What was your zombie kill of the week?
Clearly, it was the sorry son of a gun caught at the fence, whose face got shoved right through the chain links.
Yes,
I saw that and I was like, "That done.
Yep.
That's it.
That's it. I'm in total agreement."
I think in the Rolling Stone article, something we had talked about last week on the show about how the zombies are, they've been around for a while, they're decaying faster, and in the Rolling Stone article, Greg Nicotero says the same thing. He says as the show progresses, the zombies are decaying more and more, right. This was a perfect example that these things are just, man, you must be able to just put a finger through like their head now. They're just jello. Right. And that guy with his eyeball popping out as he goes through the chain link, I mean, that's a really good example of that.
There was a article on IO9 as well as a video with it that was very interesting. I think it was today or yesterday. I think it was today I read it, about animals and how they the zombie apocalypse, and basically, the zombies would be no competition for the animal kingdom. And then, but relating to what you're talking about here with the decay, they talk about, and if not animals, then the bugs, because they said, in a matter of days, bugs can take a carcass, an animal carcass, and take it down to dust, basically. Right. You know what I mean? And they showed there's this video of a dead rabbit, and over a span of 5 days, how it's basically turned to like powder. Yeah. And, no one ever addresses that. But, I suppose you could come up with a reason, whatever it is that's causing the zombies to be animated, repels the bugs, or makes the bugs not interested in them. But still, if it was traditional rotting flesh, they wouldn't stand much of a chance with bugs. I think that watch out for is Therese. I think that they're really starting to build him to a peak. Something's going to happen with him. That first episode you get that. Well, first of all, last season, he was so he didn't want to be violent. He didn't want to be violent. He didn't want to go out on the runs. He wanted to stay back and guard the camp at the governor's place and at Woodbury. He just didn't like the violence, and now he didn't want to do the fence. It was too gross. It was too violent. Then he goes on the run, and of course Zach gets killed, and they're all the zombies. Now he's finally connected with this woman, and then she gets not really killed by the zombies. She gets murdered, basically. Right. And I think you could just tell he's building to some crescendo.
Yeah. So whatever violent past that he was trying to avoid,
maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe they're building towards something similar to what they did in the book. When he lost, and I think that the thing that will push him over the edge without a doubt is when he loses Sasha. Oh yeah, and she's going. That's that's going to happen.
She's our red shirt pick of the season.
Shirt. But in the book, of course, when he loses his daughter, he just goes nuts, and he goes into the gym, I think, in the prison? Yes. And it's filled with zombies, and he just gets overwhelmed, and they leave him there because they can't save him. And then, an issue or two later,
it was 2 issues later, he comes walking out.
2 issues later, you just assume he's dead, and they go in and they find him, and he's sitting in this big pile of dead zombies, and he is just them all up. Yeah. So I'm hoping we'll get something like that.
Probably, yeah. They got to raise him to. They got to bring Tyrese to the Tyrese that us comic fans. That we've been.
It's hard. I think they've already done that with Daryl. So it's kind of hard for them to. I could see where they might keep Tyrese and then have Tyrese build that relationship with Rick after this season if Daryl were to say get killed at the end. and then they could move right into that. But I don't know if that's the plan or not.
Yeah.
AMC is going to have a hard time letting the show do anything with Daryl. I mean, he's a big sales ticket. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. When you've got somebody that people are sending you breast implants, I mean, you have hit.
That's a sure sign you got an icon right there.
Right. All right.
Something we didn't touch on last episode, though, but you and I spoke about briefly, and I don't know if you want to touch on it here or not, is the webisodes.
Okay.
Just that, I think both of us are, disappointed with those. I thought that, given the success, given, what's been put into the show, that they would spend a little more time on those. It's a great concept. I thought the first one was pretty good, the first webisode series, where we learn about how the Bicycle Girl came to be. And I thought this last one had some things in it that were good, that helped in terms of the bigger story. We learn about things from the bigger story. The middle one, don't even bother watching it if you ask me. It's just terrible.
Yeah, they've been disappointing. Like you said, they could have. They're kind of like an afterthought, just like a little carrot to get people to drive traffic to the website, but they could put a little more effort into it.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
And if they're looking for somebody to draw it, clearly Kirk Manley would love to do that. So, and I would write. I would love to write.
If they need somebody to write a better script, they just need to get a hold of you.
Exactly. You know what? Hey, that's fantastic. Producers, we know you listen to our podcast. Just hire us.
They should run during the off season. They should run a contest.
Ooh, genius!
Where they'll do, and they air the top 3 instead of doing their own 3-episode webisodes. Have independent filmmakers and fans make films and send them in, and then they can select the top 3 that they think and put them on as the webisodes.
Absolutely, AMC, call us. You have our number. Anything else before we wrap this up?
Well, just that we're really psyched to see lots of people liking the Facebook page and following us a little bit there, and we really appreciate that. We want to interact as much as possible with the fan community. So if you're listening to the show, please definitely post up comments. Let us know what you think. Give us feedback. Do a review on iTunes. The reviews on iTunes are the basis for which iTunes moves your iPod further up the ladder in terms of exposure on the front page. That would definitely helps us out. But more importantly, I'd love to just be able to read people's comments about the show, about not our show, not Biters, but about Walking Dead and about the episode, and we can share that with people on the show and
we don't just restrict it to just Walking Dead. If you want to yap about zombies, you want to talk about horror, anything. Kirk and I are huge geeks, and we got a wide array of interests, and we'll talk about anything. We just love the attention. That's why we do this. we want to be loved. But yeah, like Kirk said, visit the Facebook page, tweet about us, leave comments, leave questions, and we want to hear from you guys. With that, if you are interested in a really great adventure comic book, come visit our comic creation, Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, at www.zgirl.org, about a heroic female zombie, which, as far as I know, has never been done before. And she's in charge of a special ops team of human hosts of ancient Chinese warrior spirits, and together they take on all manner of monster and demon that tries to wipe out humanity. Come check us out. You can order books off our site, or we've got links for download if you're into digital comics, which I got to say our book looks, all comics actually look fantastic on an e-reader. So we can help you out in any way.
Think of Z-Girl as Michonne painted blue.
You know what? You need to Photoshop that and post it.
Right.
That would be awesome.
All right.
We've already done that with
thanks,
Zoe
Jeff.
Saldana. All right. So to everybody listening, thank you for listening, and we'll catch up with you again next week with episode 3. Take care.